How is it going, YouTube? Welcome back to the $24 to $1,000 bankroll challenge. This is the first part of the session. We're going to head right into the hand replay and see what's up here. We, in the first hand raise with queens double suited, get 3-bet and call. And then the flop goes check, check. On a turn, we raise with the set. And unfortunately, on the river, there's 10th of a pot that's left. And he makes the nuts. A little bit of a bad beat here. Here, in general, you still should be having some folds on the river, but folding to a 10th of a pot is pretty unhealthy in general. So I don't want to start by folding like sets or straights, but rather fold some 2 pairs and maybe just the weakest part of my range, even though I don't think people are bluffing a ton there, of course, or betting merged. But yeah, sometimes with a set you beat still some hands that are played in a weird fashion, and you don't have to be good there very often. On the other hand here, it's the complete opposite. I get lucky on the river, making the backdoor draw against a 2 pair that decides to call it off on the river for about half pot, which is somewhat surprising. He just has the 9 of hearts, which makes it somewhat justifiable. But yeah, I think pretty nice hand. Here, again, flip to the opposite, another bad beat, 4-bet pot, and we flop 3% of equity, get the money in here. And unfortunately, he has the nuts, or the second nuts. And we got aces, and we get it in against second set. That's why I made this hand as an example to see, for you to see also how, you know, weird of a hand some of the regulars play. Like this guy plays 22-11. This definitely he wants to make money, but then he goes out and limp calls those weird jacks that are definitely not favorable for him to play, and he just gets set over set, and definitely not a hand you want to be in his shoes. And then last hand that I have for the first part of the session is ace king 10-6 double suited. I 3-bet against an any 4 fish. He calls and somehow shows up with ace king king 8 on king 9 and deuce club club, which is super unlucky. But I also want to look at the hand from a GTO perspective and basically analyze why this is not what you want to do as a general rule of thumb at all. And I think I would be checking back the majority of the time, which would be the solution here. However, I thought that against someone who plays any 4, we're just going to be up against clubs and shift the majority of the time and then just fold on clubs. And that unfortunately hasn't been the case. He happened to show up with the nuts. But let's have a look at what we can do here and what we should be doing as a general rule of thumb. So if you go back to the situation, opponent checks to us on king 9-5 in a 3-bet pot. These are the stack sizes. This is the tool from rulerspoker.com/PLOvisions. You can go to his website. It's also going to be in the description below. You can learn how to play post-flop with this tool, and I'm just going to show you with this example what this tool can do. For example, our opponent checks to us, and now we type in our hand ace king 10-6 here on the top right, and now we can look at how, you know, these different backup hands, for example, if you have ace king 10-6 with the backdoor nut flush draw and a 1 heart blocker, you would pot this hand. But if you have ace king 10-6 like I did with just a backdoor flush draw, you would go ahead and check and only bet pot like 8% of the time. But what you would never do is bet 50% of the pot, because 50% of the pot is a more polarized bet size. So I definitely chose the wrong bet size, even against my opponent there. In my opinion, I should have just went in and potted if I thought that he was going to be that weak on average, or otherwise check behind. So the 50% bet size range, you can see that it's either going to clearly bet call, but it's never going to be a merged hand. You can see if you get check jammed here, you clearly fold with the ace king 10-6 combinations that have nothing. You fold with the ace king 10-6 combinations that have 1 heart blocker. So this would have been a bet fold if I chose these lines here, basically. And only bet call, of course, if we have the strongest hands. I don't hate the shift. Like against this particular player exploitatively, it might have been fine, but at the same time, you don't want to deviate from GTO like too much without any further reads. And I didn't have like any reads when it comes to 3-bet pots. I just knew he was a bit retarded before the flop playing any 4. And sometimes people playing any 4, they're really they're not that stack of happy after the flop even, which, you know, I still have to get confirmed. Here, second part of the session, whiff on a big draw. Also explaining a little bit the red line. If you whiff on those big draws, then that's gonna happen. And then this is the worst hand of the day, where I make a value bet on the river that's bet sizing wise just catastrophic. I mean, it just looks like I want to induce, and then I can level myself into calls here with the second nuts. And I don't think it's certainly unlucky, but it's also not planned through well, especially with the stack step, etc. And yeah, I also don't get called here by worse like all that much, which is a problem for value betting in the first place. So I'd rather just check call or bet fold if I want to go in that route, and bet a little bit bigger as well. Here I have the nuts on the flop, and I bet 3 times, or even get to raise the river, which is pretty awesome because he has the second nuts and pays us off for more than just 3 streets in a single raise pot, which is quite some value, and that's why I included this hand here. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this review of the bankroll challenge. We are now at $543 out of $1,000 after day number 21. I got a couple of days left, so try to make it in time in those 30 days. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you want to see some updates on this bankroll challenge. I'm going to be streaming that on twitch.tv/AndreasFröhlich. You can find the link in the description below as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Also like the video, by the way, if you want to support this channel. Thanks guys for watching. See you next time.